That sounds good.
Those were good. And then I made these, they're kind of like buffalo wings. Like you take chicken, mix it with onions and cheese, and then you roll that in a crescent roll and it forms into a ball. And it's mixed with like buffalo sauce and dip that in ranch. And I said, I don't know what to call these buffalo balls. And Max goes, no,
No. Yeah.
that's not a good name. It was funny. So,
Buffalo rounds.
yes. Anyway, it was fun. I like cooking once in a while.
We had little smokies on Christmas Day, now that you mention it.
Yeah, I they're so easy. You just
Yeah.
roll them up and heat them up and good to go.
Well, we put them in barbecue sauce and put them on hoagie roll. So
That's good too. I mean, so I was just playing around with crescent rolls because they're so easy.
yeah,
Have you ever tried to make dough from scratch? Any kind of pie dough in general?
I
Is
haven't. My daughter does so
hard.
all the time.
She does?
Yeah, she's great at it. I'm an
Really?
awful baker.
I love baking, but I'm not very good at it. So anyway. All right. Well, I know we're late. I don't want to make you guys late. Most of this content is new. You might have heard the stories before, but what I'm transitioning towards is writing this book. So these are titles that are going to be chapters in the book,
Oh, nice.
and I'm filling in stories. So if I get a little passionate telling my stories, it's okay.
You got it. All right. I'll count us down then in three, two, one. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority. Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is also an author. Barb Schlinker is a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have got to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or look for it on all of the podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. Every week, Your Real Estate Voice covers great information about the housing market and one of people's largest assets, the home. So, Barb, what are we covering today?
Well, Richard, I'm pretty excited about this show kicking off 2026. And the first topic is about Zillow and how their predictions about where the housing market is going, it really does conflict with what the experts are saying. So we're going to kind of show you the different opinions. In other words, nobody knows. But I think overall the consensus is the rates are going to be pretty much the same. And I think everybody's just got this hope going on that the rates are going to drop and the buyers are going to come out in force and we're going to be rocking and rolling again. But I'm not seeing it yet. We might get lucky. It may drop on the second half of the year when the Fed changes, but it all depends on a lot of economic factors for that. The next topic is something that I get questions on every single week. I'll have home sellers calling me who are listed with someone else and their home is not selling. And they're asking me what to do. And so we're going to cover that. We're going to kind of deep dive into some suggestions. And I did some research on it too. So I'm not just using my own opinion and talk about what do you do if a house isn't selling? It's one of four things. It's either it's you weren't prepared to go on the market, so it doesn't look appealing to buyers. It's not priced right. That's probably one of the more pivotal ones. It's not presented right. So that is, to me, malpractice. If an agent puts pictures of your house on the market and it doesn't look good, that's a problem, right? Because the buyers these days expect the home to be amazing online. That is your first showing. And if you don't get past that step, they're not going to come see your house. So you have to win their hearts and minds first online before they come and see it. And then the fourth P is really picking the right agent. I'm not going to suggest you switch agents. I'm just saying that you got to pick the right person to handle the sale. And unfortunately, we have massive turnover in the real estate industry. 87% of real estate agents get out of the business every 5 years. Well, guess what happened in the last 5 years? The market was booming, flying high, watching the clouds go by, right? So they have never seen a market where, we're not commanding bidding wars, we're not commanding full market value all the time. And a lot of agents don't know what to do. They look back on history at maybe comparable sales, but is that really what the house is worth right now? So we'll talk a little bit about that. The third topic is one of my favorite topics, and Richard, you and I have discussed this quite a bit, is how to negotiate. It's just amazing to me that there's very little training on negotiations. Actually, there's kind of little training on a lot of it, but this is a pivotal thing that the clients expect you to know what to do. And yet there's no training on it. And you experience the same thing in your attorney practice. So
when I was in law school, they don't teach you anything, not a single sentence, not a word about negotiations. And yet that's one of the major skills that you need when you're a trial attorney.
it's all you do, because most of the time you're settling out of court, right? You're not,
Yes.
and that's a
90% of
negotiation.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, real estate is all a negotiation, and there's a lot of perceptions that go on. So I'm kind of excited about this particular segment because I'm going to use real life stories where I feel like the agent messed up on this big time. And that's how people learn, is they hear stories. I'm not making fun of that agent. I'm just saying that they are not trained on how to do this. And unfortunately, they just become messengers and not negotiators. And then the very last topic is how to show your home and have full control over the process. So it's another thing that weekly I get questions on. I get complaints from my clients. They left the door unlocked. They left the lights on. They left the actual combo in the combo box so anybody could walk up, open it, get the key, and get in. That happens to me, to my listings from other agents having the privilege to go in somebody else's home on a weekly basis. It's unacceptable. But if I call and call them on it, they'll deny it. It wasn't my fault. I know I locked the door, blah, 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 right? No, they didn't. They're paying attention to their customers. They're not focusing on what they're doing. So we have those problems all the time. So I'm going to give you tips on how to really be prepared for it, how to expect it when it happens, and how to watch what's going on, because the feedback that the agent is giving you through the normal feedback systems may not really be what the buyer is saying. So I have some people that are hanging videos all over their house to see what the heck is happening. And I think it's great. I embrace it. I love it. Because then most of the time they forget they're on video, even if the camera's right there in their face. They're in the house and they start openly talking about it. And you get some very specific and clear feedback. So I think that's a fun way to deal with it. And also to have knowledge about what's going on in your home. You have to expect this day and age, anytime you go in somebody's house, you're going to be on camera. I mean, don't you have cameras, Richard?
All over the place, inside and outside.
Yeah. I mean, it's to protect you, basically. And it's also to protect them, right? So you know what's going on. Anyway, so that's what we're going to talk about. So let's dive into this topic, Richard.
So we're going to be talking, Barb, about the real estate market cooling off a little bit. Many people saying that buyers have the advantage in this market, but you're getting mixed signals from the so-called experts. So what are the experts you trust saying about the housing market for 2026?
I don't really trust any of them, to be honest. I think real estate is very, very, very local. And some houses are hot and some houses are not. That's just how it's always been for the 30 years I've been doing this. But what these quote experts try to do is give you, based on their best economic view, what's really going to happen in the future. I think 2026 is going to be a little bit more of the same. We're going to have a little higher inventory. The rates are going to be steady as they go. Right now, this morning, it was 6.19 for conventional, upper maybe 5.75 for the government loans, VA, FHA. That for sure is driving buyer interest, and many buyers are hoping that the rates are going to drop down to 3%. I don't think we'll ever see that again in our lifetime, because it was government intervention that caused it. The government was buying down the rates to keep the rates artificially low, so to boost, the economy in general. So Redfin's saying the prices will go up. Zillow is saying the prices might increase. Realtor.com is saying a very smart marginal increase, maybe 1 to 2%. And of course, the National Association of Realtors members saying 9%. I'd be shocked to see 9% in any market right now. But here's the dilemma. Still to this day, 1 out of 6 homes actually has multiple offers. Okay. It's all about how you come out of the gate. And it doesn't matter if it's a fixer upper or not. We're going to go into that in the next segment on how you can make that happen, actually. But if people bought a home in 2022 and they need to turn around and sell this year, they may be tough on the equity department. Hopefully they put a down payment. And there are some people that did put a down payment. They understand they're going to take a hit, and we're moving forward from there. So rates are more the same. Home prices probably are going to stay flat. A few months ago, Redfin came out with a report. They surveyed about 500 agents and discovered that there was a big increase in the number of contract cancellations. So what does that mean? The way the system is rigged, right? Theoretically, if you're playing by the rules, and I don't, just so you know, I have my own way of doing things. You get an offer, and then you have to tell the whole world that you have a contract. So what's going to happen? The buyers don't think it's available, right? So they stop showing it. And the, all the demand just crushes at that point. It's over. And then 2-3 weeks into the process, either the buyer bails over inspection, buyer bails over financing, which is not the seller's fault. And the question that I get after the house goes back on the market from agents is, well, what's wrong with the house? They automatically default to it's a seller problem, it's a house problem, not necessarily a buyer's inability to perform. Now, the state does not require the agents to verify the buyer can perform. I'm not even sure they've talked to the lender half the time. So, because I have, and the answers I get, I don't like. So I'm just saying that there's a large amount of cancellations. Maybe buyers are getting cold feet. Maybe they can't qualify. I don't know what it is. But the problem is the rig part of the system is you have to create all this demand destruction by telling the world it's got a contract. So the buyers pivot to another house, and then it comes back available again. So I don't play that way. I'm just saying it's a tougher market than it's been in the last 5 years. Couple that with the fact that we've got a lot of military veteran buyers around here that come in and buy homes, no money down, 100% financing. And if they did that 3 or 4 years ago and they need to sell now, they're in trouble. That's why the foreclosure rate is massive in El Paso County. It's ranked number 2 in the country, which is, it's still not as many as it was, not even close, as it was back during the meltdown. But those military folks, which saddens me, are in trouble. So if you are thinking of making a move, we track this stuff all the time. I'm not one of those agents that just shows up, posts pictures in the MLS and hope and praise some other agent has a buyer. I actually do know what's going on in the market, and I can give you advice to help you win in any market. So give us a call if you're thinking of making a move, 719-301-3900. Richard?
Barb, we're discussing Zillow, some of those other programs, their predictions for the housing market next year. What are other predictions and how should listeners get prepared?
Well, I would say, first of all, preparing your home for sale is a really good idea. And we have a whole team that helps you do it. We can also help you price it right, and we will promote it right no matter what. Some homes have different situations where they need to be priced more aggressively for different reasons or less aggressively. Like if they back to a busy street, well, guess what? That's probably going to sell for less than one that doesn't. That's just one example. And then, I think the other thing that they could prepare for is don't expect a bidding more, but if it happens, it's a blessing and be grateful for it. Make sure the home is priced right. And we've got longer days on the market. And don't worry about the season. Do it for when it works for you. We're coming into the spring. Spring tends to be when homes sell for the most money across the whole year. I don't know why. I think we have a lot of military moves in El Paso County, other counties, kind of the same thing, getting towards when summer comes into play. But generally, mid-spring is a great time to sell your home. But last month was a great month for me as well. So just so you know, with 87% turnover of real estate agents every 5 years, and Zillow came out and said 71% sold 0 homes last year, there's a whole bunch of agents out there that had to get another job. If you're going to handle the sale of one of your, or have somebody handle the sale of one of your largest assets, don't use an agent that doesn't sell. But that's just my very simple advice. Hire somebody that knows the market, knows what they're doing, and can help you and give you proper advice to make it work and make it work quickly. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we'll be discussing what to do if your house does not sell. Barb's got the answer to that.
Let's run out of
Right.
time on segment 1. I don't know why.
You made up for it. Ugh. I think David will be the arbiter of that, but
Do I sound too sassy?
I don't think so. I honestly just don't. You sound like, you know what? You sound like there's some problems with other people. And I think that's fine because there are problems with other people. And folks should know that, you know, I can't imagine, and I say it all the time, but I can't, God bless people who are trying to start a business, selling real estate, whatever. But I don't want to be one of their, let's see how it goes and I can learn from this sale.
Right. They do it all the time. I mean, they just go with whoever sold them the house or who they know.
You don't want the latest person off the cook line at McDonald's?
At least they're trained. Sorry, did I say that?
I might trust them to put together a sandwich, but
Yeah. Well, they're trained to do the same thing. Oh, they know exactly what they're doing. It's always the same, no matter where you go. I mean, yesterday I actually had an agent ask me to supply similar sale comparables for my listing to her. I said, that is not my role. Well, I can't come up with this, the tax records say it's this size. I'm like, she goes, how'd you come up with that? I said, I took the tape and I measured it. Oh, that's what they're supposed to be doing.
I
if they're
went
not
to
sure
the
about it.
house and I had my tape measure.
Funny
They
how
make-
that works,
They make
right?
digital ones now, so
It's an older house with additions and stuff like that. So,
no, but they make digital tape measures. You don't even have to physically.
yeah, I know. That's what appraisers use. But I just used a tape. I know how to do that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
But I mean, you aim it at the wall. It's really not difficult at all.
I know, but yeah, it doesn't matter.
You
It,
stand
it,
against one wall and you aim it at the other wall, and that's how big that room is.
it was the point was she was trying to get me to support her lower opinion of value for her buyer. And I think she totally forgot I'm working for the seller. Why
You
are you
gotta
asking
remember
me to do
which
that?
side I'm on.
It's every day. It's pretty entertaining.
Uh,
Okay.
All right, I got number two. I kind of I'll count us down in three, two, one. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, the selling season winds down. I would think there are quite a few homes who have not had a sale. So, what are the reasons why some homes are not selling, and what can be done about that?
Well, Richard, it's just four things. It's very simple. Number one, is the home prepared for sale? Number two, is it priced right? That's critical. Number three, is it promoted right? That's the agent role, and that should be right. And then number four, you got to pick the right team to handle the sale, because not everybody is the same. They might be nice, they might be friendly, they might have sold you the house, but do they have the expertise to give you good advice to make decisions about selling one of your largest assets? So we'll deep dive into this a bit, but let's start with preparation. Now, just to put it in perspective, since 2012, I've handled about 210 properties that were taken back in foreclosure by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. That is the way that happens is the veterans have this benefit that they could buy a home, no money down. If they don't pay, their lender forecloses, but the government gives them money to make the lender whole, not the borrower, and then they deed the property over to the VA. So there are always some going on for different reasons. A lot of times these homes have issues. Sometimes the owners have issues. It's always sad to me to see a veteran foreclose, but it happens. And it's been happening a lot here lately because they came in and bought in 2022 at the tippy top of the market, didn't put any money down, competed against other buyers, overpaid for the home. Then I had one this last year where they went and put solar panels on top of the house and put a lien on the house for solar. So you add another 30, 40, $50,000 to what's owed on the property. There's no way they're going to sell that property for what they owe for a long time. So if these homeowners have to sell sooner rather than later, it's the worst option, but they let it go in foreclosure. So I've handled hundreds of them. I would say most of them are not pretty. Some are. Occasionally we get a pretty one. In fact, I've had two or three where the veteran had the carpets cleaned before they foreclosed, which just breaks my heart in a way. You know, they're just so used to leaving home in good condition. But majority of them are kind of a mess. They have fractured plumbing. One was just a crazy person, just throwing latex pink paint on the walls and broken window. Anyway, those homes are selling at a bidding war. Why is that? Okay. It's all about price. So you can go out and get a renovation loan and have all of the renovations funded into the loan, right? So you don't have to have the cash to do it. You just have to get a loan to do it, even with low down payments. So you could go in and get one of these renovation loans and have the loan fund the remodeling. And if the home is priced right, it's appropriate to do that. And typically the VA will price it according to its condition. I think the worst one I had condition wise was the one that had some kind of freeze break, and the whole entire home was pretty much gutted down to the studs, right? So that's a little beyond a typical light rehab. And that one typically they sold and targeted a price where an investor would buy it. But most of the time, it's owner occupants buying these homes that need work. So that's really, really important. How the pictures are presented is critical. And even more lately, I've been learning about this. So I had a listing this past year where it's a newer home, great floor plan, but it's only 3.5 years old and it had structural settling. So you walk in the door and you see these big cracks in the ceiling of the great room. Down in the basement, the framing is separating from the doorways and from the baseboards are coming off the walls because the house is moving. So being the person that's trying to sell, I didn't highlight its flaws, right? I'm trying to get it sold. And I got criticized by buyers, not my buyers, other agents' buyers calling me and going, "You wasted my time. I spent my gas money looking at that." And it had problems that I didn't know about. Now, I had informed the agents in the multiple listing service and in the showing instructions that it had these problems, but they don't read. I hate to say this, they don't read the information that I put out there. They don't look at the MLS anymore. They just react to a buyer saying, "Get me in that door. I want to buy that house." And if the buyer likes it at that point, then maybe they'll do a little bit more research. So I had to play offense instead of defense. And so I thought, all right, I asked my brother and he said, just go out on the publicly facing side and tell the truth about the house. So that's what I did. I said, this home has structural settling. It does have a builder warranty. I don't know if they're going to cover it. The VA is offering this home as is, meaning they're not fixing anything. So after I did that, what was interesting is I started getting a lot of buyer calls directly to me, asking me questions, and it was very honest and open and told them everything about it. And then they can make their decision as to whether or not they were going to spend their gas money to go look at a house like that. So pricing is absolutely important, and promotion is important too. And of course, picking the right agent. Now, what I would suggest that you do when you're preparing a home for sale, obviously, not every home is updated and not every home is fresh and new and, remodeled and all that stuff. And that's okay. There's a price for that. However, you still want to have your brutally honest friend or relative take a look at the pictures and give you honest feedback about the home. Does it look dated to them? Does it look cluttered? Does it need staging? A lot of people don't know that there's a pretty large segment of the population, probably about a third of them, that actually cannot visualize what to do with an empty room. I am one of those persons. I don't have an artistic brain. So if I look at an empty room, I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going to put furniture. It's not as emotional to me. I don't feel the love when I see that. And I have a hard time getting motivated looking at empty houses. So that's why staging is very important. We have different layers of staging that we actually do. Okay, I think I lost David. Griff, can you check? He dropped off a while ago. I hit pause on the timer. Having technical difficulties. BJ, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we lost you about 4 minutes into the recording.
And
receiving audio, and then we lost everything. So
Yeah. So, okay. You want to start over?
yeah, probably just need to because I have no way to.
Yeah. I don't know where I was either,
Yeah.
but it was a great one.
Of course
I
it
know,
was.
right?
My best take. Oh, well.
We'll do it again in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, as the selling season winds down, I would think that there are quite a few home sellers who have homes that did not sell. What are the reasons they're not selling, and what can they do about it?
Well, I get calls every week from typically other agents, clients that are in that dilemma where their house hasn't sold. They don't understand why, right? Because the assumption for most home sellers is I'm going to put the house on the market and they're all going to sell. And I'm here to tell you, even with my listings, they don't all sell. Now, there's a lot of input to that. The seller is the one that actually decides where the home is going to be priced. The agent is the one that controls the marketing and the promotion, right? But some sellers are relying on the advice of the agent. And so I don't know where they were at as far as their communication or what happens. And it's a little touchy. They're allowed to talk to me, of course, and I can talk to them, but I can't provide services to them if they are under agreement with another agent. So some people just pause. They're like, nah, I'll wait till the market gets better, which I'm not seeing that. It's not exponentially better in the market predictions. Maybe just a little tick up in home sale prices. At the end of the day, in this area, it's just a small margin, just a few percentage points between sitting there on the market month after month and having the home sell in just a matter of a week or two, right? And we know how to do that. So here are the 4 issues that happen when a home is not selling. Number 1, preparation. So not every home is beautiful. Not every home is remodeled. Not every home is updated. And some homes, frankly, have issues. You know, maybe they back to a busy street. Maybe I had one 2 years ago that backed to a noisy freeway, but it still sold at a good price. Not every home is priced right. So as an example, I have handled over 200 properties taken back in foreclosure and ultimately deeded to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. The way that works is if a veteran buyer is getting a VA loan, they can buy that home, no money down. But if they foreclose, the VA funding fee, a piece of that VA loan, will actually give the lender money back. And then the lender just deeds the property over to the VA to resell. So I've been handling those properties now since 2012. And I've handled just our company well over 200 properties so far. And I would say most of them need work. So they're not pretty. Okay. Or they have some kind of weird issue going on. And, but the VA, since they are a corporate seller, they know exactly how to price it right ultimately to get it sold. Now, in general, they claim they want it to sell at normal market timeframes, 90 days or something like that. And so sometimes they'll test the market a little bit higher, but they'll make an adjustment if it's not selling. So pricing probably is the most critical factor out of the 4 Ps that makes a difference, that helps a home sell. But that doesn't mean you have to price low necessarily to get the most money. It's all the stars have to align to get the buyers to want to come see the house. So number 1 is preparation. If you prepare the home for sale and there's good photos of the home taken and it's properly promoted and it's priced within reason, the buyers will come. But the buyers know more about the real estate market than I think a lot of real estate agents do, in my opinion. Many buyers don't want a home that needs work. However, if it's priced low enough, they can get a renovation loan. They can actually fund the repairs into the renovation loan and end up with a really nice house at a great price that's affordable to them. So that's why all these 200 plus properties that have sold from the VA, many of which are fixer uppers, plumbing's not working, pink latex paint thrown on the walls, whatever it is, are selling. And they're having bidding wars because the VA knows how to price them right. So preparation, these are the things that you have to look at. First of all, if you're on the market and you're not selling, please grab your most brutally honest friend or relative and ask them how your home looks to them online. Because I'll admit, when I go over and I prepare and I meet with sellers for a listing, I know in my mind, I've got what I call rose-colored glasses over it. So I'm not looking for flaws. I'm looking at the big picture, like, okay, we can sell this home. It looks good. We can do this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really deep diving in the flaws, but the buyers are looking at it online, out of the gate, up front. You have less than 57 seconds to make an impression with the buyer online. And that is decision time. Do I want to see this home or not? Am I going to make a call about that home or not? Right? That's all the time that you have to make an impression. And if you don't do that with your first showing online, they won't come. I had a listing in 2024 that was a beautiful house, but the seller hired a property manager to list the house. He took smartphone pictures, which were really awful. The lighting was bad. It was narrow. He didn't highlight the best features of the home. And couple that with being way overpriced. The house sat on the market month after month after month until that seller called me. He goes, I was going to call you, but I had this agreement with this property manager. Anyway, he fired the property manager, hired me, and we sold it for full price in 9 days. It was the same house. The problem was, and generally the same price, the problem was the pictures were awful. So we couldn't get people in the door. And actually, the day that the contract got accepted, I had another buyer that wanted to buy the house and was all mad at me because I didn't save it for them. And I'm like, where you been? This house has been on the market for 120 days, you know. But the problem was it didn't exist because the pictures were so bad for the first 110, but he wasn't at the open house either. All right, presentation. So we talked about that, how you really have to have the pictures in the right order so that you don't get eliminated online. And then the other thing is, how much time does it take to sell? Right now, the average time frame from the time you go on the market to the time you get a contract is already over 115 days. Now, not every home is getting contracts. That's just the average of the ones that are getting contracts, which is probably 1 out of 4 homes right now that are getting contracts. So if you miss the mark by either one of these 4 P's, preparation, pricing, promotion, or picking the right agent, the market is going to speak back to you right away. You'll be able to tell by the number of showings, the number of requests that you get to see the home. According to Zillow, a normal amount of showing activity should be about 6 a week. Are you getting 6 a week? Are you getting 1 every 2 weeks? You know, I have a lot of sellers call me. I say, how many showings you getting? Well, maybe I had 3 in 2 months. I'm like, that's something's wrong. Okay. Is it dated? That's another issue. So sometimes condition can be the reason a home is not selling. I recently had a home up in the north part of town, really pretty house, custom home, nice property, nice views, nice lot. And they moved out before they put it on the market. And the pictures we had were with furniture. So when they moved out after that, so when the buyer got there, it was empty. Now they had replaced the tired carpet in the basement, but not on the main level. So once you pull all that furniture out of there, it's all the flaws, including the tired carpet, really stands out. It also had wallpaper borders. Those are very much date the home, and a couple of bathrooms were just slightly outdated. So they came back all the way from Wisconsin and fixed those things. As soon as they did that, boom, sold almost full price. So sometimes you can come back and fix those things. There are condition issues. I have one listing that has purple stucco. Okay. Purple is a little strong color. And the problem is with photos, purple gets darker and brighter. So we've had problems with showings up front. I've had people that had houses with pet smells. That's a definite turnoff. Smokers, that's a turnoff. So if you don't address these things, unless the home is excessively priced below market value, buyers will go see it, maybe, but they won't buy it. Their expectations are very high. So just to get them in the door, the online showing has to be great. And then once they get in the door, if you disappoint them, they're moving on and they're not coming back. So it's the whole package. I actually had a quote from an asset manager that handles hundreds of properties at any given time. And he goes, you need to tell me if there's something that would make the buyer turn their nose up at the house, because you only get one shot at this. Don't let the buyer get away. Tell me if the carpet's bad. You're my boots on the ground. You can see the house. You can smell the house. Share that with me. That way they can position the property to sell, to win. And pricing definitely is a critical piece of that. So right now, more than half the home sellers are lowering their price. Why is that? Maybe they hired an agent and they said, oh, well, this home sold for this, so my home should sell for that. I've had some people reach back 2 years ago, well, my neighbor's house sold for this, therefore mine should sell for this price. Okay. Most agents, because we have 87% turnover in real estate agents every 5 years, most of them have not seen a market where the prices are soft or correcting, or you really need to promote the house to get a buyer. It was the easy button 5 years ago. You stick a house on the market, have okay pictures, you're going to have a bidding war in a day or two, sometimes hours. That's not the case anymore. So this is why pricing it right, and making sure that it's priced right for its situation is important. And you need somebody with experience to do that. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show. And we're talking about the reasons why a house is not selling. When we come back, we're going to dive a little bit more into pricing and how it can really make a difference as to whether or not a home will sell. If you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. We have thousands of buyers in our database of buyers in waiting. Typically, I can email your home to at least 1,000 buyers that are high match for your home when it goes on the market. Call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Barb, we're discussing why a house may not be selling. So, what are some things that a home seller should do to solve that issue of a home not selling?
Well, it's likely price, but I would also look at the other issues. So, who sets the price? Who does it? A lot of people think the agent decides on the price. No, it's actually a seller decision. They are the ones that sign on the dotted line and say, okay, price my home here. But many of them will defer to the advice of the agent, right? So it's a collaborative decision, right? And what is that criteria? Well, appraisers look at similar historic sales. But if it's historic sales and the market's soft or declining, how do you pick that number? How do you catch a falling star kind of thing? What are the market conditions? What are the motivations of the sellers? I've had sellers offer deep discounts just because they don't want to deal with fixing up a house. Nothing wrong with that. So what is the real home's value? Well, guess what? It is definitely not a Zillow Zestimate. Did you know that the values on Zillow, Richard, are based on not the homes that sold, but the ones that are on the market that haven't sold? Did you know that?
I did not know that. That doesn't make sense, does it?
No, to me, it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't matter. Their whole purpose in life is to grab the data from the MLS, put it out there for the buyers to see, get the buyers to raise their hands so they can sell a buyer lead to a real estate agent. That's how they've made billions of dollars. They could care less if their data is correct. they try to position themselves as experts, but I got issues with that. Anyway, and it's certainly not what an appraiser says it's worth. An appraiser is also looking backwards in time. So first, and the appraiser's not going to buy the house either, right? They're going to say, oh, I think it's worth this much. That's great. But is a buyer willing to pay that much for it? We don't know. So number one, pick your selling strategy. I have multiple sellers, particularly last month, that said, I'm not remodeling. I'm not dealing with this. I don't want any buyers through my house. Sell it to an investor as is, go. And we're able to do that and command the most money for them in that situation. Or if they want to go full market value, it's a different deal. And as always, it's best to price a home what I call realistically versus optimistically, and picking the right agent is critical. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, simply call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a break, but when we come back, we'll be discussing how to negotiate a real estate deal and to win while you're doing it.
Long on that one. God,
I'm going to run to the men's room real
so much to
quickly.
say. Blah, blah, blah. Do I sound angry?
I don't think you sound angry.
Okay, just checking. Mark said I sounded a little like I was bitching the other week on the show. He said something like, all right already, you know? I'm like, oh, sorry.
And I think as long as you come at it from a perspective of, look, I'm trying to improve what you're doing, and maybe lace it with some
Stories.
pro tips, here's how I would handle that, and here instead, then it's not so much that you're pointing out the problem, you're actually giving a solution.
Right.
I think that's the main thing to stay focused on. Because anybody can point out a problem.
True. I don't know if I gave any solutions in that segment. I actually had somebody call and ask to a buyer, ask me to ask the seller if they would co-sign a loan for him to buy that townhome.
You told that story a couple weeks ago. I about fell out of my chair.
I laughed at him. I couldn't, it was like a automatic reaction. I'm like, oh, shut up.
Do you realize that puts the other person on the hook but still for the house? I mean,
but it's like, well, they get their cash and it's a win-win. I'm like, okay. That's the first. Every week there's a first.
I was like, what? Barb
Hey,
just mentioned
at least he
again.
asked.
Barb just mentioned again the story of the guy who asked to if the seller would co-sign the loan.
I guess the only logic is, well, all they can do is say no. That's not a good philosophy to go through life with.
Well, my credit score is, 580, 560.
Uh-huh. Which is why you need a co-signer.
It's crazy.
You have seen a lot of things. I would say that. You have seen a lot of things. All right. This is segment 3. Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, host of the program. And this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, we're heading into that spring selling season. You're out there selling homes all of the time. What are you seeing in the market about negotiations, and how can you help our listeners win in situations like that?
Well, Richard, putting a home on the market and hoping that your home sells is not working as well as it did a few years ago is the problem. If the home is priced right and it's the best home at the best price, typically those homes will sell for top dollar. And the buyers are pretty well versed about pricing and inventory and what represents a good buy versus not, right? And you can actually create demand for your home if you have something special that you're offering. As an example, we sold a house last year where the husband and wife are both veterans. They didn't both need their VA eligibility because they're living together. And so they offered their VA loan to be assumed. The interest rate on that VA loan was like 2.75%, right? So we advertised that it's available for a VA assumption. And this buyer was clamoring to get that house. They would do anything to get the house. And that included paying the buyer agent commission, right? Because if you do the math, you can't get a 2.75% mortgage rate right now, right? So it's almost like handing that buyer in that price range about $500,000 of savings of interest. So those are some of the things that, if it's available now, people are terrified of it, right? They're like, I don't know. What if they don't pay? Well, the credit reporting actually stops on a VA assumption when that person assumes the loan. It could affect your eligibility down the road only if they foreclose, but typically they have to have a little bit of down payment and skin in the game. So at the end of the day, when you talk about negotiating, when you get offers, there's a lot to consider. First of all, the price. Second of all, believe it or not, the buyer's ability to buy. So even though they might have a cute little pre-qualification letter that comes along with their offer, which most agents do send that much, I'm not sure the agents are asking the question. They don't have to do it, so they don't even ask the question. I got one where we got a pre-qualification letter, not pre-approval. It made the buyer look weak, but actually the buyer was well qualified and they were all ready for underwriting. But the lender didn't say that in their letter and put doubt in the seller's mind. So when you're making an offer, I don't care what kind of market it is, you definitely want the buyer to be presented in the best light, right? So then I had one time a few years back, there were probably 6 or 8 offers on this house. And the seller had just lost a contract. So it went under contract. The contract failed because the buyer couldn't get a loan. So we went back on the market and we got multiple offers. This time, we're not going to let it go. So I got on the phone and I called every single lender for all those offers. And I have a certain set of questions that I asked to find out how really qualified are they? It's 1 month of school to be a real estate agent. It's 2 weeks of school to be a mortgage broker. So how much are they actually checking? I don't know, right? But I asked. And one of the lenders said, they're kind of halfway there with that. In other words, they hadn't checked all of their stuff yet. And so I wasn't going to do that to the seller again, have them go under contract again with another weak buyer and have the deal fail. That's just a huge mistake. So another factor is, do they have a house to sell? I had one listing a few months ago where the buyer's initial offer was pretty good, but it was contingent on their home selling. So when I looked at the home that was selling, trying to decide, well, do you think this is a sellable home or not? I was like, no, all the homes are 50,000 less than what they were asking. they're just going to sit there and not sell. So I advise the seller not to take that offer because the chances of that home selling are very slim. And it ended up being a different buyer that got the house. And then another question is, when does the buyer want to move in the home? So the normal time frame, contract to closing, is about a month. It could be less. I got one closing today that's literally 2-week deal. But is everybody prepared for that, especially if the seller has to move out? I had a request last year where an agent said, my buyer's looking for a house. They got to move in 1 week. So I will give you this offer if you can get out in 1 week. Well, that's, it was a big house. It was like, really? You're going to ask the seller to move out of this giant house in just 1 week, and we still have to wait through inspection? I don't know. Yeah, I don't care if there's cash or not. There's a lot of factors you have to consider. Do they have a house to sell is a critical one, because it puts uncertainty into the transaction, and you don't know when you're going to get to the finish line unless their home is under contract. And then I would want to deep dive into that. I want to see the contract. I want to know if that contract that they accepted on their house, if those buyers have a house to sell. Sometimes I've seen 3 or 4-way deals go on where the agents weren't really forthcoming, and you have to deep dive and find out what's happening. The other question that I see is, how much commission does the buyer want the seller to pay the buyer's agent? So this became negotiable about a little over a year ago. And most agents are throwing in their offers thinking, well, I should get 3% because I brought you a buyer and you didn't have one before, so you should pay me 3%. And some are actually absolutely insisting on 3%. So I had one recently where they made an offer. The seller countered. They were very reasonable. But the sellers knew that their home was priced already a good 5% below similar sales, right? So they knew it was priced right. And yet the agent came in with this premise and mindset that, well, it's a buyer's market and your seller should pay $10,000 of my buyer's closing cost, and your seller should pay me 3% because I got you a buyer. So the seller was gracious and countered them what they would accept. They gave them a little discount, but they wouldn't pay the 3%. They paid some of it. No, I insist on my 3%. So he came back with pretty much the same offer. So while he's dilly-dallying around, guess what happened? Another offer came in. Whoops. Now you have competition. So, that's a factor that you have to think about. And if you dilly-dally too long, Murphy's Law is, I don't care how long a house has been sitting on the market, is very possible another buyer could make an offer. And then all bets are off. The buyer has to make their best and highest offer. Now, don't be surprised. And it's still to this day, I get sellers that are surprised that buyers come in, they make an offer, but they want the seller to pay 10, 15. I think my record is $25,000 of the buyer's closing cost, $25,000. And it's hard to come up with that much closing cost, to be honest, but I said, what are you going to do with that? And where did you come up with that? Oh, the lender told me to do it. So I get on the phone with the lender. I'm like, so where's this money going? Oh, well, we're going to buy down the rate. We're going to do this. And we want fries with that too. And I said, what makes you think that the seller's willing to do that? Well, I do it all the time. I said, okay, fine. So you have to really look at the fine print. So what we do when we meet with sellers is, when we get offers, first of all, we go over the offer. It's another thing that the state does not require, that the agent explain the 21-page contract to the client. Did you know that, Richard? You don't have to explain it.
Oh my gosh. No, I had no clue whatsoever.
Yeah. So you just email it to them, and theoretically the wording in there is supposed to make sense to them, which, lawyers wrote it. So how about that? So, anyway, sometimes they'll ask for personal property. So what is personal property versus real estate? It would be things like refrigerator, washer, dryer, hot tub. I'm trying to think of some other personal property. Maybe there's I don't know, TV mounted on the wall, something like that. So those are written into the contract, but there's also a section in the contract that says that certain things go with the house. So those things would be like curtains, curtain rods. So a lot of people don't know that, right? So they take their curtain rods that they spent money with down, and oops, now they have to give a credit to the buyer on the final walkthrough. Refrigerators, only if included. Anything that's included with the house, unless you specifically say they're offered as is, the seller's on the hook if they break. So I actually had an agent that was too lazy to go to the inspection because he put in writing that was a complete waste of his time. But when it came down to the refrigerator failing, he hired an attorney. Now the used refrigerator was worth about $300, but he hired an attorney to fight over this, the seller giving them money for a used refrigerator. We got it worked out, but it was just ridiculous. So I learned something from every transaction pretty much. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about how to negotiate a real estate deal and when. And next up, we're going to talk about what sellers should expect to do, what they need to do in this market condition, in any market condition, when they're negotiating to handle one of their largest assets. Richard?
So, David, where are we at time-wise?
11:30.
Okay. Just wrap it up here then, Barb.
We got, let's see.
I've got a small one.
We could do just a short 1 minute thing.
All right. I'll just go back to you real quickly. 3, 2, 1. Barb, we're talking about negotiating a real estate deal to win in the market. Tell us more about that.
Well, Richard, when you're negotiating, I think that both parties, that both agents need to really do their homework, right? And most home sellers are relying on the expertise, the market expertise, the negotiating advice, and the current competition to give the sellers good idea to either get this done or not. So I get some very interesting questions from real estate agents when they're bringing offers. Typical questions are, do they have any competing offers? When do the sellers want to move? And I love this one. They ask me every time, how much less will the seller accept? Right now, I can't tell them that. I'm working for the seller. I'm trying to get the most money for the seller. Atypical questions that I get from agents are, will you send me similar sales to justify your sales price? When do the sellers want to move is very common. Will you send me a copy of the competing offers so my buyer can get the house? I've actually had that question a couple of times. How much are the competing offers? I'm like, I can't tell you that. Make your best and highest. So here's the thing. Most buyers, agents, define their worth based on getting stuff for their buyer. So it's us against them, but they want the seller to pay their fee, right? So you have to be really careful on how you communicate with these agents, because we're not, now some agents will do it. Some agents will give the farm away just to get to the finish line. But I've seen agents demand a really, really high commission regardless of their offer, even when they're facing competition. And the net result was their buyer didn't get the house, and now their buyer's mad. Then they send this anonymous letter to my seller going, well, that agent, talking smack about me. But at the end of the day, it's my job to create demand and get the seller what they want, right? And if you have competition, all bets are off. You got to make your best and highest offer, whatever that is. In this particular case, the seller wasn't interested in paying 3% commission. He would only offer 2%. The buyer could have paid the difference, right? But did the agent even ask? They're not trained to negotiate. And so the net result was his buyer did not get the house, but they could have if he worked it out. So there's a lot of training that goes on, and I just don't think people train on it. I think they just assume that if I send an offer, you're supposed to respond when I say you respond. right? But I would tell home sellers in general to, when they get an offer, I don't care how low it is, don't kill the messenger. Sometimes it's the agents trying to influence the negotiations because their motivation is to get their clients stuff. So I don't care how bad the offer is, go ahead and counter. The agent isn't the decision maker, the buyer is, right? So it's okay to counter. Don't worry about them, coming in with a low ball offer and fishing for a low number. I had one a few months ago where the asking price was 700. First offer was 600. Seller said no. Second offer, 650. Seller said no. Third offer was full price, and that closed, right? Because the buyer wanted the house, but the agent was trying to get them 100,000 off based on her mind about what that home was worth, and she was wrong. So if you are thinking of making a move, we help people with this all the time. Give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard.
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. A short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to show your home, plus have full control over the process. We'll also talk about Barb's hot new listings. Don't miss that.
Did I run over, DJ? I'm sorry. I
Yes,
forgot
ma'am.
to restart the clock. Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
I did. Okay. You can chop it up however you want. I don't care.
Okay. Okay, one more.
All right, let me call Mark. He's calling me during the radio show. It's a party foul.
Make him the guest. That's how I used to teach people.
He knows better.
You're live.
Hey, I'm still recording. I have one more segment to go. What's up? Oh, I don't know yet. So give me about 10. I think it's the budget rent-a-car at Woodman and Powers, I believe, at Home Depot. I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up yet. Okay. And you can have the puppy with you. Oh, well, you need to come. Okay. You need to come and get me and take me there. So come to the office. Yeah. Okay. All right. Bye. All right. How far over did I go on that one?
My 1 o'clock recording showed up early, so I had to get that at least started. So
No worries.
yeah.
All right.
Richard, are you about ready?
I am.
Do you need to drink some water or anything?
We're about to find out, I think.
Yeah, saddle up.
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, owner-broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, most home sellers believe they should be leaving for... Now, Barb, most home sellers... Now, Barb, most home sellers think that they should leave during showings, but how can home sellers show their homes for sale and keep full control over that process?
Well, Richard, this is the normal process, right? You put the home on the market. Most agents will tell the sellers, make it available all the time, whenever the buyers want to see it, whenever it's convenient for them, let them in, which if you're living in the home is not convenient. A lot of people are looking at homes after business hours, meaning it could be at night, right? Right now in the wintertime, it could be at night. They want to see the house because they want to see it when they get off work. A majority of the showings, though, do happen during the weekends, right? But the seller doesn't have to leave, and the seller doesn't have to give them limitless opportunity to view the home whenever they want. In fact, I think it's better to limit the showings to make it more concise. And I've had really good success the last couple of years holding them back until the time is convenient for the seller. But if you are home during the showing, I would recommend that you step out of the way, maybe go into the garage if you can. Don't engage in a conversation with the agent. You know, the agents, their job in their mind is to get intel to work against you if they do happen to make an offer, right? So they're on the other side of the transaction, even though most sellers are paying their commission. I I actually remember one a couple years back where we had a lot of people initially showing the house, and one agent showed up and the seller was home, you know, and she confronted her and said, well, you're not supposed to be here and you can't talk to my buyer. And she just goes, well, I live here, you know? And so the seller called me and said, am I not supposed to be in my own home? I'm like, of course you could be in your own home. You know, they're not entitled to have the house to themselves just because they scheduled a showing. That was inappropriate for that agent to say that. So a day or two later, another agent did the same thing and said, you're not supposed to be here while we're showing this house. And she looked at him and she goes, last I checked, my name is still on title.
Very good.
I was so proud of her.
Very good.
She got a backbone, wouldn't put up with that. So agents do what they normally do. And there is really no training on how to show a house, right? So they just go out and go, all right, I'm going to open the door. And what I normally do is I have free reign of the house to walk around, talk about it and all this stuff. But it doesn't always go that way. So you make it work for you. I would just recommend that you don't hover over them while they're showing. Avoid disclosing every single flaw in the house. Don't even talk to them. If they're interested, you can direct them to your agent. And please don't disclose your motivation for selling, because the agents are really good at getting that intel out of you. Like, oh, are you moving to another state? Have you bought another house? All those things indicate to the buyer's agent that you're desperate, right? And you don't want that. So I would just stay out of their way. Even during inspections, I've had sellers that stayed home during the inspection, which is fine. It's their house. And they disclosed something that happened years before where there was a plumbing leak and they had to have the home professionally treated. They actually had everything fixed. They had mold test, remediation. So they disclosed all that to this buyer during the inspection. So what comes back on the report? The buyer, the new buyer, is demanding another mold test and another mold remediation, or they're not going to buy the house. And they ended up walking away from the deal. So the seller told me, he's like, I probably shouldn't have talked to him at all. I said, yeah, that's the best thing to do, is just not have a conversation with them. But you can certainly be home. If the inspector has a question about systems, you can answer the inspector. But you don't have to make the home available 24/7. And keep in mind, a majority of agents are connecting with alleged buyers based on some kind of online connection, either Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, whatever. They got a lead. And if they talk to this buyer, the buyer wants to see the house. The buyer doesn't want to meet the agent. They want to see the house. That's buyers want houses, sellers want buyers that buy houses, right? But they don't know if this buyer can buy the house. They have no idea. They haven't vetted. They're not even required to vet them. So the very first meeting is at the door. They don't know if they can buy a couch on Craigslist, let alone your house, right? That's why you might be getting feedback. Like, let's say you have a ranch style home. I've gotten this feedback before, actually, where a buyer, it was a more than $1 million listing. This agent showed it to this buyer, and the feedback was, well, the buyer wanted a 2-story. I'm like, what? Why were you there? It was a ranch. It wasn't a 2-story. It wasn't made up. So most of the time, these buyers have never met the buyer before. They don't know what they're looking for. They don't even know if they're qualified. They're just living in this, hope that maybe they could buy a house, right? And I don't really feel like the agents study the multiple listing service anymore. They don't even do any research until the buyer is somewhat interested in the home, and then they start asking questions. So they've already shown the home. But the seller's mentality is, oh, this is it. This scheduled showing, I'm going to get everything ready and get it ready to show, and I'm going to leave the house or whatever you're doing. And that buyer shows up and says, oh, well, no, I wanted a different type of floor plan, or I bought in a different area or something like that. So the way the system is actually built, there are about anywhere from 12 to 1,500 different multiple listing services in the country. I think this state might have at least 20 or 30 of them, right? All of these multiple listing services are kind of like realtor clubs, and these realtor clubs create a website where you can upload your listings, and then the listings get shared to all the tech company websites, Zillow, Realtor.com, and Homes.com, right? There are probably over 40,000 real estate agents in Colorado. And guess what? They're not going to be members of all 30 of the MLSs, right? So they're not going to have all the detail. All they do is call to get access to get in the door in the hopes that that buyer wants to buy that house. And then they ask. I recently had a listing in it's in a Black Forest neighborhood called Cathedral Pines. Beautiful, expensive neighborhood. This home had been listed with another agent at $2.4 million. And the seller fired that agent, who he affectionately called the teenager, because somebody had asked to view the house. The teenager agent didn't verify that the buyer had the ability to buy. And she met the buyer at the house. The buyer was walking through the home, and this particular home had a safe. And the buyer was only motivated to see the safe and nothing else, right? So the seller kind of took note of their name because he was there during the showing. That alleged buyer left, and turned out that guy just got let out of jail, right? So there was no vetting done by this real estate agent. Now, keep in mind, if that agent would have earned a 3% commission on that sales price, it's about a $72,000 commission. That's a lot of money, right? And she didn't even bother. In fact, I think in her mind, she'd already spent the commission check on something in her brain. So that's why he fired the teenage agent and hired me. And his rules to me were, nobody gets in the safe until after it's closed and I have my money. So I never got to see it. I would have liked to have seen it, but that's how it went. So now agents also don't supervise the showings. I'm just giving you all these hard facts of experience that I have been through in my practice. I've seen kids jumping on beds. I've seen them use the restrooms. I hate it when they use the restrooms and don't flush, especially on a winterized home. I've had them drop popcorn on the floor. I've had them leave doors unlocked. I've had them leave the correct combo code in the box and not flip the dial so anybody could get in. I've had them track snow in the house. I've had them let tag along buyers in the home, right? Buyers that they don't even know. Or I've had them a couple of times actually change the lockbox code when it was a hot property or a discounted property so that nobody else could get in. I had one really brilliant agent during COVID. She took the keys to the house and stuck it inside the service door
One at the
inside
ends.
and locked the door. Did you have something?
Actually, I was a little bit confused. Where are you at time wise, Barb, on this? Did you start a
10
clock?
minutes.
10
10
minutes.
minutes.
Okay, I didn't.
10 and a half.
Do you want to, at this point, you want to just go to the hot new listings?
How many minutes?
And
do I
my
have?
recording locked up at 8 minutes in, so I've got nothing at this point. I hear you here live, but I don't hear anything on the recording, so I don't know what's wrong with our system.
Okay. Well, it's recording on Zillow. I mean, on Zoom.
Right, and I'll probably have Griff send me that over like he did a couple weeks ago, unfortunately.
I guess as a practical matter, if we're at 10, we probably ought to just go to the hot new listings unless you think otherwise, Barb.
Just give me 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
Then pick it up right where you left off, because I didn't realize my microphone was on and I was actually interrupting you. I apologize.
No worries. It's okay. 3, 2, 1. So agents don't vet the buyers. Plus, they might go in the home and actually criticize the home. It's not worth that much. It won't qualify for financing, whatever. They also show up late, leave early, or fail to show up and fail to cancel their listing. So how do you deal with that as a seller? That is the question. Number one, I would get cameras inside and out. And that way you get really good, specific, clear feedback about what's happening with the showings, and you know what's going on within the house. And the other thing I would do is just make sure you restrict the rules to make it work for you. Don't make it terribly inconvenient for you, because there's 40,000 agents and there's just one of you, right? So if all of them want to show, you can't manage that with your schedule. You just want it to work correctly for you. And make sure you lock up your valuables, okay? And make a good impression when you are showing. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard? Now I can't hear him. Pause. Our systems want us to be on vacation, I think. So all we have left is hot new listings. If you want to just dub that in, Richard, and I'll start talking. Will that work? Okay. All right. 3, 2,
I can do
1.
my little thing here.
And now I can hear you.
Yeah, we got it squared away. Let me just do the intro to hot new listings.
Okay.
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Now, Barb, you've got hot new listings coming up. Tell us about them.
I do. I have a couple of properties owned by the VA that are really good buys, under 200,000 out in Yoder on 35 acres. Another house up in Florissant for 260 on 2 acres with gorgeous views. I also have a great townhome in the southwest part of town at 299. Beautiful home on Meade Avenue at 325. another VA, couple of VA repos, one on Bramble at 365 and another up in Ridgeview of Stetson Hills on Cash Drive at 365. And our red hot listing for the weekend is 6635 Brook Park Drive, priced at $399. Gorgeous 4-bedroom, 3-bath in D20. A great home on 2395 Troy Court. And coming very soon, a fabulous home in Fairfax and Briargate that backs to open space on Stable Court at 539.9. And a hot fixer-upper at 367 on Harrington. Plus, we have a stunning home on 1 acre in D20 on Ross Drive and many others. To find out about all of our coming soon homes, go to barbhasthebuyers.com and click on feature properties. Richard?
You've been listening to your real estate voice. It airs every Saturday. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb Schlinker, 719-301-3900, or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker, or listen to the podcast on all of the popular platforms like Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, etc. Thank you for listening this week. Reach out to Barb, 719-301-3900. Barb, have a great 2026. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. You too.